Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Hybrid Driven. Today, I wanted to talk about the six most complaints that I'm hearing about the new Toyota Prius. These are primarily from reviewers, since it's so difficult to put your hands on one. And speaking of putting your hands on one, I thought I'd give you a quick update, let you know where mine stands. In case you're new to the channel, and please click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. I've got one on order. It is a Prius Limited all-wheel drive. About a week and a half or so ago, I grabbed one out of allocation. It's in the build process, should be coming soon. Now, there is a website that you can go to track any Toyota vehicle. It's called toyota-tracker.com. You need the VIN number, and then you can see where your vehicle is, in my case, the Prius, in the process. So, I'm going to tell you what it says about mine real quick. It says here, you can see current status. It says it's in allocation. Goes on to say this is the first stage in the process of receiving your new Toyota vehicle. It means that this vehicle with these specifications, whatever the dealer spec'd in my case, have been confirmed and has been allocated for production. This stage is critical in ensuring that all necessary resources and components are secured for the production of your vehicle. Lastly, you have freight and the delivery, I suppose. And what I've found about this app and this website with some other vehicles I've tracked is when it switches over to freight, which is shipping, it's all about timing. It depends on when the human actually initiates the change in the setting, right? So that could mean that it's just been put on a boat because the Prius is shipped from Japan, or it's already been received in the US, it's on a truck, and that's about 3 days to me. So as soon as I see the screen flip, it's anywhere from 2 weeks to probably 3 weeks before I actually have it, depending on when it was initiated. So that's where I stand. I'm still in the build or allocation process according to this tracking site. Now, let's talk about the 6 complaints that I'm hearing about the new Prius. Number 1, plastic surfaces. In other words, the touch surfaces, the way they feel inside the car. People are tapping on different areas, knocking on different parts, and complaining about them feeling a little bit cheap. Some areas are padded and feel good from what I've seen, but others not so much. It's going to be interesting for me to experience that and see if I agree. Do some areas feel cheap in the new Prius? I don't know. Next up, gauge cluster visibility. And I'm talking about right in front of you. Speed limit, all the other settings, fuel economy, the gauge cluster right in front of you. Some of the reviewers are complaining that the steering wheel is in the way. In other words, they can't get the wheel there where they want it to be able to see that gauge cluster out on the dash in front of them. I think this kind of depends on your proportions, right? I mean, if you're taller from the waist to your eyes, you're going to sit higher up in the seat and you're going to be able to see that better. If you're shorter in stature, obviously the steering wheel could block out part of the gauge cluster. But isn't that true in most vehicles? I think you probably can get that steering wheel to where you want it so that you can actually see the gauge cluster without anything being in the way. Next up, height. It's a pretty low vehicle. Yeah, but that again depends on you, what your proportions are. I mean, if I'm 6'4", and I probably wouldn't buy a Prius in that case because I wouldn't fit in anything. You really need a big SUV or truck for someone that size. But kind of depends on where you're at. My height, I expect the roof of the Prius to come in somewhere about right in this area. So yeah, that's pretty low. I mean, if we go over and take a quick look at the Honda for perspective, it's really not that much different. I mean, if I'm standing next to the Honda, it's really about here anyway. So it's not going to be much different height-wise, I think, than what this Honda Civic is. Next up, rear seat headroom. Yeah, this, because of the way that the Prius kind of slopes in the back, is going to be a bit of a problem if you are tall or, again, proportioned longer from the waist up. I think anybody who's above 5'8", 5'9", is going to start to feel a little bit confined back there in the back seat when it comes to headroom. Is it a problem? Not for somebody like me. I don't haul a lot of people around with me, and if I need to do that, I have other vehicles. It's not going to be my primary people hauler, let's say, unless it's just me and the wife. Otherwise, I would take my Jeep Gladiator or my Toyota Tacoma. Next up, dual climate zone control. This one I find kind of funny. A lot of people are complaining it doesn't have dual climate zones so that you can select the temperature based on, what you want where you're sitting in the front seat. It's a pretty small car. I mean, really, I don't know how much or how effective dual climate control would be because there's not a lot of room in there anyway. But that's what you get when you go with kind of a compact, smaller car. I think that's kind of a petty complaint myself, and I think all it would do is add more functions and more weight to the car to have those extra things in it that really is not necessary. Lastly is visibility. This is something I was concerned with. The way that the car is set up, the way that it sweeps back, the pillar in the front, the A-pillars, kind of make it a little bit more difficult to see out of, I think, particularly in the rear. Another one of the little sub-complaints I'll add to this is that the original Prius had that kind of secondary or third window in the back. You had the sloping down of the rear window, and then you had another window area below that where you could actually see out better, I think, behind the car. I was a little bit concerned about that when I placed my order for the first Prius. I've placed orders for 3 now. That one fell through. It didn't have the digital mirror. I love this digital mirror feature. Of course, it's hooked up to a camera on the back so that you get a view of what's behind you actually through the mirror. It's a camera image of everything that's behind you. So I can't imagine having any issue like that with mine. It should be okay, and I should be able to see just fine because I'm going to have a video, in essence, playing all the time on that rear camera. And by the way, that, in addition to the screen and the all-wheel drive, are 3 things that I'm really looking forward to experiencing in this new Prius. It's kind of good for me that the first 2 fell through because now I get one that has everything on it that I want. The Prius Limited is actually one step below, and it is the all-wheel drive, the Prius Prime. So I think I've got the most that I can get without going full Monty and purchasing the Prius Prime. Anyway, there's just a quick update on the status of mine and the 6 biggest complaints that I'm hearing about the new Prius. Can't wait to experience it myself. Let me know, do any of those things matter to you? I'd be curious to know. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.